Okay, we've got about 10 people now, so I'm going to get started then. So hello, everybody. Welcome to UCTV Alive for Kids. I'm Tess Crellin. So you might normally see Louise Grimmer come on the show as host, but Louise unfortunately is sick, her family's sick. So she's at home today and I'm going to help out by being host. So I normally do the production in the background and help make it happen. And if you watched any old episodes a year or two ago, I also occasionally did host. And there might be some students here who I've even met recently at Children's University graduations, because I've been traveling around with some of the people here in the office and meeting a lot of students from schools that regularly watch UCTV Alive for Kids. So it's been great to meet everyone. But before we get started, there's just a few things that I wanted to let everyone know. So UCTV is an interactive online show that broadcasts monthly but via Zoom webinar. So your microphone and camera has been disabled to protect your privacy, but we will share a recording of today's episode on the Peter Underwood Centre website, Facebook page, and on the university's YouTube channel. It's also important that we pay our respects to the First Nations people. It's a reflection of our institution's recognition of the deep history and culture of this island, that we acknowledge the traditional owners of Lutruwita, Tasmania, the Palawa people, the original custodians of the land from which we are broadcasting to you today. We pay respect to their elders past, present and emerging. Now, in today's episode, we have a really special guest. Her name is Beale Gurney. So Beale is a designer and animator with the university, but she also runs workshops for kids. And that's why she's on today's show. So one of the things that she's done in the past is she used to be a 3D character animator here in Tasmania at Blue Rocket Productions. She worked on about 9 of their cartoons for television. And during that time, she worked out that she's really good at teaching people how to do things and training them. So she started teaching animation at TAFE as well as running those workshops. So Beale is going to actually go through one of her modules with us today, providing a really quick and easy introduction to stop motion. So I'd love to invite Beale onto the screen with me now. Thanks, Beale.
Thank you.
Welcome. It's so great to have you here.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about the video that we're about to show?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I occasionally run kids animation workshops, and I was booked into one to run one in 2020 for the Clarence City Council. But what happened was lockdowns, and so they were going to cancel it, but I suggested let's make it an online workshop. So to assist that, I made a whole lot of little videos that we intersperse with communications and, you know, posting and sharing work and stuff. Yeah, so those little videos, your team here has put together those little videos into one summary video, which is a great kind of overview introduction into using free apps to create stop motion.
Amazing. And the app's called what, Beale?
It's called Stop Motion Studio.
Stop Motion Studio, great. So we've included the link to download that. It's completely free in the webinar registration. It'll also pop up on the video in case you're in class or you're at home right now and you want to download it and have a go afterwards. But it's really cool, this video, Beale, that you've put together. So I think that we should go ahead and play it.
Thanks. Let's go.
Okay, great. I'm going to do that now.
Hi, I'm Beale. I'm going to be tutoring this workshop in stop motion animation online. So this activity is about getting started making stop motion animation without even having to design any characters or props or anything. So the point is actually having a go and seeing what the app does and how you're going to use it. It is a little bit backwards. So in a professional animation, for example, what would happen is there would be an idea for the animation and there would be a story and a script and some voice actors and the characters would be designed. A lot would happen before the actual animation. But this way we get to jump straight into using the app. So you'll need to get your tablet and you'll need to open up the Stop Motion Studio app. When you open it for the first time, you will probably have to click through a few menus and then you click New Movie. So this is where we take the photos. You need to allow to take photos. So once you've got the app open and you're in a movie, all you need to make an animation is a couple of objects from around the home. I'm using little pencil sharpeners. We're just using existing objects for this one so that you don't have to take the time to make a character. You need to get it set up so that it's pointing in the right direction, so it might take a bit of fiddling getting it set up so that everything's in the right spot. So maybe put the prop in front, put the little object in front and make sure that the camera's pointing at it and that you can see it in the frame. And then make sure that everything's going to stay put. You might want to use masking tape or cardboard or whatever. Once you've all got it set up, that's when you start taking the pictures. So each picture is called a frame in the animation. To get started, I like to take a picture before my character or my object is even on the screen. So I'll take a little picture and then I'll move the character along into the screen just a little bit and take another picture. And then I'll move it a bit more and take another picture, move it a bit more and take another picture. Notice how little it's getting moved each time. That's actually quite a lot of movement. If you want something in your animation to move quite slowly, then you need to have more frames. So the more frames, the slower the movement. Here I've got it so that the little pencil sharpener turns towards the camera. And then what I'm doing here is I'm taking a few pictures in the same spot without any changes, and I start turning it back around and it moves on. You can see that I didn't do my job very well here because as I take the pictures and press the button on the screen, the tablet is wobbling. So that means the animation will be a little bit shaky when it plays. So if you can get your tablet to stay sturdy, that's even better. So after a while, I'm going to try bringing a second object in. Now this makes it extra tricky because for every frame, that is every photo, I need to move both objects just a little bit. And I need to keep track of where they both are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this green pencil sharpener in and he's going to chase the orange one and he's going to catch up to him. When he catches up to him, I'm going to make him pause and the orange one will turn around and the green one will freak out and run away. I'm using this little pop-up feature of the pencil sharpener to make it look like he's freaking out. And as I do all of this, notice how along the bottom you've got pictures coming up. So each one of those is one of those frames. When I'm running the green guy out, I'm moving him much further for each picture. He'll be moving faster because there are less frames. Finally, this green guy is exiting, the orange one's just still sitting there. So you notice how the bottom there, you can scroll along on the frames. You can actually delete frames, so you can delete pictures and you can go back along and insert any along the way. So when I'm finished, I can press the play button and see it all play through. And it will cycle through the frames over and over again so you can check on it and you can get a feel for your timing. And that's about it. So have a go, get started animating and think about those tips and tricks.
Do 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 do. Yay!
Beale, well done. I love watching that video. I've watched it a few times now here in the office because as we were getting it ready for today's episode, but it just goes to show how easy it is to do stop motion, but also how great are the student videos that we included, that you made sure we included in the package.
Yeah, they're pretty great. The kids made them over a couple of days, a couple of half days actually, and they made them at home. What I particularly liked about them is the what we at the usual workshops is just the kids at the workshops, but with these ones they got the whole family involved. They couldn't just sit back, so they got parents to do voices and they got older siblings to also make characters, and they got really involved in like the details of the animation. Like you notice some of the shots were like close-ups to show emotion of the faces, so there's some really clever stuff in there.
No, it was fantastic. How old were some? I know it was sort of lots of different people from the family taking part, but how old were some of the students that were doing it?
So the signed up participants were generally between about the ages of 6 and 13, which is a big age range.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic. There were so many good videos that came out of that workshop that we could have included, but I just picked a couple of the more complete ones. So we're going to have a bit of a break now. Normally we have a 5-minute break. We've decided to just do it as a 3-minute break because we're finding that these episodes just go past so quickly. And we think that 3 minutes is probably enough time for you to send in some questions and to chat to your teacher or to talk to someone at home if you're in a homeschool. So we're going to break now. I think you know the drill. There's a chat function at the bottom, a Q&A function rather. You can send in your questions there. We'll take a look through them. I'll read them out and Beale will answer them. If you'd like to include your first name and your school or homeschool, we'll give you a little shout out, but you can absolutely ask the questions anonymously. So we'll go to that 3-minute page now. So we'll see you guys in a bit. Hey, Beale, there's some pretty good questions coming through. I don't know if you've had a chance to have a look at them.
I did have a peek.
Yeah, there's so many. Thank you so much, everyone. We always love seeing all the questions that come through, especially from some of the schools that join us every month. Which the first question I'll read out is from one of those schools. So it's from Sydney at St Josephs Queenstown. And Sydney has a question for you, Beale. How did you put the voices in the video or in the stop motion?
So good question. So in the examples, in the kids' examples, they're using the free app, which is, like I said, Stop Motion Studio. There's also a pro version of the app, Stop Motion Pro, it's called. The same site gets you to both of them. And the pro one sort of has sound effects you can just plonk in there, but the free one, Stop Motion Studio, kind of gets you to do your own sound effects. And within the Stop Motion Studio app, you can, I think you saw in the demo that you can tap on the little pictures of the frames down the bottom. There's the ability when you do that to like add sound, and it lets you record your own voice, or technical term, Foley. So Foley is when you like record sound effects, and some people's job, their whole job is to make sound effects, and they're Foley artists. And so you can make your own Foley by, like, let's say something goes bang, you can like make your own sound, get something heavy, smash things together, or you can, make voices. So it's that little recording feature in the app that lets you do that.
So when you were making the cartoons, Beale, did you ever have to make this, when you were doing it for TV in Tasmania, did you ever have to make the sounds yourself, or did someone else do that?
So working on a professional animation, like as an animator, there's so many people that contribute to the project that the animators rarely have to make the sounds. By the time it gets to animation, you've got all of the stories planned out. The scripts are written by someone else. So that's like the story in words, and then pictures are kind of roughed out, which are called the storyboards. And you've got the voices are recorded by special voice artists, because that is not my area. And that all comes to you, and you've got it all together, and then you design that, you've got the characters actually designed, and you're moving them around, and you're redrawing stuff, and you're putting the sounds in. So no, I don't generally, when I'm working professionally, I don't generally have to make the sounds or the voices, because there are people who specialize in that.
Cool. All right, so let's move on to another question. This one's from an anonymous attendee. So what is your favorite thing about making stop motion, Beale? And please give us some of your best tips for getting started that may not have been in the video.
Yeah, right. What I really like about stop motion is it's kind of a really great way to get started into animation. I've done a lot of different types of animation, and the professional animation they've done. Stop motion is kind of the fun thing that I do, that it's very rarely done for kind of TV animation and stuff, because it takes a bit of time, but it's also really fun and easy to get started and kind of have a go, which is why I use it in a lot of the workshops. So that's my favorite thing about it, just how easy it is to kind of get started with it. And the tips I guess there are a few tips. There are technical tips. So there are some features in the app that you can use which are really good. One of them is called onion skinning, and it's worth checking that out. It basically shows you a ghost of the last picture when you're making the current picture, if you like. So you can kind of line up and see where you were and where you're going. So onion skinning, really cool. And from a creative kind of tip perspective, timing is everything. So most times when people create an animation at first, everything goes way faster than they expect, and they realize they have to go and put more pictures in, or if they want it to go fast, less pictures. So really trying to look at that timing and getting used to how far to move something and how fast that will look, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I wish that we could show some of the little videos that I know you've made other videos that go along with this, but you know, if you've got the app downloaded at home or in the classroom, you could always just take a little note down of something like onion skinning, and always you could probably even type into YouTube onion skinning with the app name and something might come up. But the next question is from Leven at Rihanna Primary School, and they ask, what is the longest stop motion video you have done?
So me personally, as I said, stop motion is like the fun thing that I do, kind of an aside to the professional work that I do. So I don't often do kind of long ones. I usually do them within kids' workshops with kids. So probably about 5 minutes, so not very long.
Yeah, cool. That's pretty long. Okay, so we've got another question from St Josephs Queenstown, this time from Max. Max just wanted the name of the app again.
Yep, Stop Motion Studio. So the Stop Motion Studio is the free one. If you search for it, it tries to take you to the pro one, but that's the paid one.
Yeah, somebody actually asked a question similar to this video. Let me just find it. So one of the anonymous attendees we've got has asked, let me just find it. It says, no, it's not from an anonymous attendee, it's from a teacher that we know, Lynn. And she says, it says there are in-app purchases when I looked at the app. Does it work okay if you only have the free version and don't purchase anything extra?
Absolutely. So all of these apps try and make you buy stuff inside them, but and sometimes it's like, oh, I wish I had that. But for example, one of the in-app purchases is the extra sound effects and stuff. And as I was saying, it's kind of even more fun to make your own. So all of the core features, the most important features, including onion skinning that I mentioned, all that can be done with the free version without any add-ins.
Yeah, great. And Beale, you said that the longest video that stop motion video you've personally made is 5 minutes. We've got a student from Cambridge Primary School who's asking, what length can your animation be? I guess they're asking what's the maximum length, maybe?
Yeah, so theoretically, I'm not sure with this app. That's very long. Yeah, 5 minutes. That was a compilation of multiple videos that I put together. So usually a video that you might make, it takes a long time. So all of those pictures that you take, usually you have to take, by default, the app is set so that you need 12 pictures to make 1 second of animation. So that's a lot. If you can imagine taking a picture, moving it, taking a picture over it all. I think it would be, days of work to make, anything longer than a few minutes. So technically, I'm not sure. Practically, from the perspective of how hard would it be and how long would it take, I wouldn't aim for something more than even 30 seconds is a long one, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a good one. There was a question here about I'll find it later, but there's another question similar to that, Beale, about how many frames there are per second. But someone here, Alaya from St Joseph's Queenstown, has asked, how long does it normally take you to do a stop motion animation?
I think it's kind of an answer of how complicated is it. So you saw in the demo one that I did, there were 2 characters, and you could use plasticine, which is even more complicated, or you could use objects. So it's simple in the fact that I was just moving around objects, but that I was having to consider 2 objects. You can imagine if there were 5 characters moving around and talking, that would take even longer. So, I mean, okay, that demo animation, including recording it and doing the voiceover and stuff, that probably took me I'm going to guess half an hour, just because I had to think about it and plan it, and then, you know, also stop to talk about it a little bit. But it takes quite a bit of time, because it's not just the number of frames, it's the thinking and the planning.
Half an hour is pretty quick. I looked at it and thought that it might have taken you days to make that, but you're a professional. For people starting out, it just takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah. I did find the question about the frames per second, and I probably lost it again. No, here it is. It's from Cambridge Primary School, and they asked, does it run at 24 frames per second?
Yes, so Stop Motion Studio, the app, I think when you open the app, it's set so that you take, if you don't change the setting, it's 12 frames per second, because it's a lot of work to create that. But you can change it to it sounds like you know something about animation, and that 24 frames per second is more standard with other types of animation. So you can change the frames per second, but if you think about it, that is twice as many frames, twice as many pictures that you need to take to get 1 second of animation. So, and if you've already done the animation and then you change the frames per second, it appears to speed it up. So you kind of have to decide how many frames per second you want before you start on your animation. Otherwise, it'll change the speed and mess things up.
Yeah, it sounds like Cambridge Primary and maybe doing some stop motion, if they know all about the frames per second.
Yep.
So that's a great question. Lucy from St Josephs Queenstown has asked, when did you discover that you liked stop motion animation?
So stop motion animation, I've come to, I guess, more recently. I guess I started animating when I was a kid. I guess when we got our first computer, I think I was 10, so showing my age there, 10 when we got our first computer, and the first thing I wanted to do in all my free time was not play games, but actually make animations and use drawing programs and things on the computer. And technically, I think there was frame by frame animation in there. So it was the same principles that I really enjoyed then, but I've only really had a chance to play with stop motion animation since it became a thing on tablets. So, you know, where we had apps to play with. So really only in the last 10 years that I've really been able to play easily with stop motion animation.
Yeah, awesome. Mackenzie from St Joseph's had also asked what clay they used to make the blob guys, and I think you kind of answered it before. Was it plasticine?
Yeah, so I strongly recommend plasticine. So Play-Doh is too gooey and kind of melts a bit. The non-plasticine, fake plasticine stuff I've tried. It's a lot cheaper, but it tends to be too hard and waxy. So fancy brand plasticine is the best option after all. And it's pretty good because it's pretty malleable, so you can kind of smush it when you need to, but it kind of holds still when you want it to.
Yep, awesome. There was another question from Cambridge Primary around what types of devices you use to run the app. Is it just phones and tablets?
Yeah, so Stop Motion Studio, the app that was used in that demo, is just for touch devices. It can be for Android devices and iOS, Apple devices, and it's pretty universal. You can use tablets or phones. But there are lots of other options if you use desktop computers to do animation, and more types of animation. So this is just focusing on stop motion. But let's say your school has a subscription to, you might be familiar with Adobe Creative Cloud software, so like Photoshop and Illustrator. Maybe your school has that. If your school has that, you can also access one called Adobe Animate, and that's got even more things that you can do. So what's good about touch devices is it's good at taking pictures and being able to manipulate it really quickly, but it's not so good for like drawing and stuff. I mean, some people have an fancy Apple pen and stuff, but on a computer, you can pretty much do anything.
I think we've only got time for one more question, Beale. It's from an anonymous attendee, and they said they use Stop Motion Studios already. What other free similar apps are there that may have other features? And they've signed off, it's from a homeschooling dog who wants to have a film made of her eating a bone in stop motion. And then they've written, haha, joke. So from a homeschool family, are there other apps that have the same features?
There are, and I keep trying them, but I really think Stop Motion Studio is not that I'm paid by Stop Motion Studio, but it's definitely their most flexible app, and especially for a free app, it's definitely the best one for stop motion. But there are some other great apps. The second app I would always recommend is called Flipperclip. If you haven't tried that yet, that's more for drawing, but if you have a pen and a tablet, it's a really good other animation app, not stop motion, but different.
Great. I'm sorry that we didn't get to answer everyone's questions, but we do have one final challenge that we'd like to pass on to everyone. So Beale, you've come up with a bit of an idea for how to sort of get people motivated and start to make a stop motion animation.
Sure. So now that you've seen that it's free and that you can install a free app on your devices, if you haven't already, it sounds like a lot of people have a bit of experience, then maybe have a go at finding Stop Motion Studio and installing it on one of your devices, and yeah, try out making your own animation. I'd recommend trying, if you've got objects around the home, use that first, but definitely plasticine is a really good option. And if you want some extra tips and tricks, there are some great websites that give you tips on using modeling with plasticine, and also with stop motion in general. There's something, if you want really advanced tips, the principles of animation, there's some fancy stuff you can find out. If you already started with animation, you want to take it to the next level, definitely there are some great video tutorials on the principles of animation you should take a look at. And then once you have once you finish your animation, doesn't have to be that long, not 5 minutes, it could be, you know, a 5-second animation. If you'd like to, you could share the video with the Underwood Centre, and
yeah, absolutely. So you can, all our contact details are on the Peter Underwood Centre website. So there's an email address there that you could send the video to. You could also ask a teacher or a parent to send it through on Facebook or another social media platform. But we would love to see any video that you come up with, or even just a photo of a character or a photo of your set. And if we, you know, we'd check with you first before doing it, but we'd love to then share it. Just make sure that you don't include your face in the video or your surname, because we just want to protect everyone's confidentiality. But we really would love to put that up on our website and on our Facebook page, because it sounds like maybe some schools are already doing a bit of stop motion animation. But I think that's everything, Beale. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I'm sure everyone here had a really great time listening to you today and learning a bit about it. But thanks for coming on the show, Beale.
thanks.
See you later. For everyone else, this is our last episode for 2022, sadly. We'll be back, though, next March. The Libraries Tasmania is running a special event called Tasmania Reads in the middle of March, and we're going to do a broadcast as part of that. The presenter is still yet to be determined, but we're hoping it'll be a local writer. So we'd just also love to thank you all for coming on the show. Thank you so much for watching every month. Thank you so much to Louise Grimmer for hosting, and we will see you next year. See you later.